Hi, just wanted to do a quick note about how you might use modules. My name's Tom Gibbons. I actually have been working with Canvas as a teacher and as a technical support person since 2012. There were some questions that came up about the best way to use modules, and there are lots of different things that you can do. But I will say that yeah, the modules page can be really overwhelming. That is the default homepage in Canvas when you open a course, is to have the modules page show. But if I'm a student and I come into a class for the first time, I'm gonna and I use the homepage. Keep in mind that students frequently don't use the homepage. Let me show you why that is. I'm going to jump over to a student user here really quickly, and let me go out to my dashboard, and I will show you why students may not use the homepage. So the course I'm going to be working in today is this one. This homepage is one. But if I look over here on the right-hand side, I'm going to zoom in just a bit. This is me as a student. I can actually see my assignments that are due right here in my to-do list. So I may completely jump over the homepage. So if you want students to use the homepage or actually access your course through modules or whatever, and you have this to-do list, which is a default feature in Canvas, the only way you can really get rid of it is to write it out with custom JavaScript based on roles. Some institutions do that, I know in Washington State, but just as a heads up, students do this all the time. And this is from my experience as a teacher as well. They'll just kind of try and jump over everything. Now, I want to mention that I think the best way to combat that use of the to-do list is to actually say in your instructions for your assignments, hey, this is what this is about. Don't try to answer this assignment or respond to this assignment before you've done these things. Here's where you can find the stuff that supports your ability to actually do this assignment successfully, right? So that would be my recommendation, is always to put that into the assignment content to kind of combat students' use of the to-do list as a way to just completely jump over your carefully curated module content. All right, so that being said, if I go into the modules index as a student and I look at this, I'm going to go, okay, cool, that's week one. Okay, there's some more week one stuff. There's some more with this. Okay, now I'm feeling overwhelmed. Now I'm feeling anxious. As a student, I may not know that from my own personal view, I can collapse these modules. So this is going to feel really anxiety building. By the way, this collapse, you can do this too, but it's only, again, for your view, not your student's view. They're not going to know this. They're not going to see this. They're just going to see the huge list unless they themselves start collapsing things. So normally I would recommend that your module be fairly granular, fairly smallly, sort of granularly chunked, smallly chunked. Good. So some smaller chunks. That's what I would recommend. But we get into this space then where students see this and get completely overwhelmed. Well, we can combat this in a number of ways. We can do it through the modules page. If you want modules to be your homepage and that kind of be where you teach from, cool, we can do that. Let me go back into my teacher person and show you. So this is a different strategy. We'll get to that in a second. Let me go into modules. If modules were my homepage, this is what I would see when I logged in, and my students would see this too. What I would recommend doing is one of potentially many things. You can first of all, you can set up module prerequisites and requirements that's going to control student access to content, but that's not really going to combat them feeling overwhelmed. If a student is going to feel overwhelmed and you want them to not be able to get into everything, you can set a lock date. So for my week one modules, I want those to be open. But for weeks 2 and 3, as I go down here, this one is if as long as they finish getting started, they're going to be able to get into weeks 2 and 3 right away. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to come in here and edit this. And I'm going to set a lock date on it. And I'm going to unlock it at, so let's say this is our first week. We'll unlock it on Sunday of our second week because this is weeks 2 and 3. So I just say done. And it says, all right, Sunday, April 12th, that's going to unlock. So I update my module. And it says, hey, requirements have changed. Do I want to relock them? Because I have a student in here already who's been doing stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and say relock that. And so what I've done now is put a lock date on this. And it says it's going to unlock on April 12th at 12 a.m. right down here at the bottom. It's not a bad thing to repeat what this module applies to, either by week, give it a date in the title, that can help. But it does in default view show that date, but just down at the bottom. It's not the most apparent thing, but it is there. I'm going to flip back over to my student so you can see what this looks like for them. As a student, I look at this, I go, okay, there's week 1. There's week 1 also. Here's week 2. You know what? Let me refresh my page because that change won't kick in. And now I can see it's all completely grayed out. Prerequisites of week 1 getting started. Well, guess what? I can tell that I've completed that week 1 getting started. All those requirements are checked off. Okay, so I should be able to get into this, but I can't. It's showing as locked. Why is that? I'd have to know to scroll down to the bottom and see this here. I'm still seeing everything though, and that may feel a little bit overwhelming. So, jumping back to my teacher, what are some other ways that I can deal with that? Well, one of the ways that I can deal with that is unpublish the modules. I'm going to leave the content within these modules published. And the reason I want to do that is because if the content is published, it will be visible to students in other locations within the course, but they won't be able to get into it. So the module tends to feel like this big overwhelming list of stuff, right? And if I look at the assignments index or the grades page or something like that, I'm just going to see assignments or I'm just going to see grades. I'm not going to see all of the readings. I'm not going to see all of the assignments and stuff, all of everything all in one location, right? Even though those may be small pieces and important pieces of scaffolding for the assignments. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unpublish the module. It doesn't unpublish the content contained in it. It just unpublishes the module. It's going to make the module basically invisible. It's like putting a cloak of invisibility around your module and all of the contents in it, at least in the module's page. So I'm going to unpublish that one. I'm going to unpublish this one. Watch what happens when I do this. What happens to my student view of this. I'm just going to unpublish this one. And I'm going to actually go down and unpublish everything in this course. Okay, all my modules are completely unpublished. Now, I'm going to go into my student again. So I did that as the teacher. Going into my student, I'm going to refresh my modules page just so those changes take effect. Here's week 1. All right, I'm ready to go ahead with the second week 1 module, which is Theater Basics. This is my acclimation to the culture of the course module, basically the getting started. But look here, nothing else is here in the modules index. That can be really, really helpful. That's going to make your students feel more comfortable. That content is still visible to me as a student. I can go into my syllabus page. So I'm there as a student. I'm going to use this jump to today link to get to today in my schedule. When I do that, it takes me right down here to the bottom and I can see here's all the content, all the assignments that are going to be graded that have due dates, all that stuff. And also, this is a bunch of calendar dates that are from 2017. But all this other stuff is current, like current due dates for this course. I can see that stuff. I could see in the grades area when I go in there. I can see my grade distribution based on assignments, right? I can see all of these assignments, what the point values are. These are marked as missing because they missed the due date and stuff. But I can see everything in here. This is basically a course that's midway through, and this particular demo student has been doing nothing. So it's a fake student, right? So I can see everything that I need to see about how the course works. I can go into the calendar, and I can see the calendar view. I'm going to turn off all my other courses, and I'm just going to leave Intro to Theater turned on. And I can see my whole Intro to Theater course laid out here. If I wanted to see other courses, I could do that too. Actually, this isn't the Intro to Theater course that I want to see. I want to see home pages, that one, right? I turn that one on, and I can see all of home pages laid out for me here. That home pages course, it's all right here. It's all where it needs to be. But when I go to the modules index for that course, which was home pages, and I go to modules, I don't see everything. I'm not overwhelmed by it. So the way I would manage this as a teacher is I unpublish the module and then week by week, and I have everything in it published. And even if it's just like the assignments sketched in so that I as the student can see the point values and stuff, and I'm thinking particularly about older students here where they might want to see that kind of stuff. Watch what happens if I go into the assignments index. Say I have the assignments index available to my students. and I go into these assignments that are not available to me yet, I click on them, it's going to tell me it's part of an unpublished module and not available yet. So I'm going to know that it's there. I'm going to know how many points it's worth based on my grades page. I'm going to not be able to get to it until the module itself is published. So that's how I like to manage this kind of stuff if I'm really concerned about my students being able to see everything. Sketch in the work plan, but unpublish the modules, right? So that's one way. I could also couple this, by the way, with, all right, I'm ready to publish my week 2 and 3 module. I'm going to publish it. Cool. That's fine. Whatever. And I'm going to just grab it right here. I collapsed it because it's going to be easier to move. I'm going to grab it and I can move it up to the top. And now my weeks 2 and 3 are going to be right at the top. And I can also, by the way, you can move modules with using this move option. You get a flyout menu and you can choose where to put it. When you get long modules indexes, it's hard to drag and drop. Okay, so that's another strategy that you could couple with this publishing and unpublishing of the modules, but leaving the content inside the modules published. Okay, another thing that you could do is you could actually, and so what this does is it puts weeks 2 and 3 at the top of the modules index, particularly helpful if you're using modules as a home page, right? If that's what you're using as your home page. If you are using a graphical homepage, there are a couple of other additional strategies you can engage here. One is that you could just add links to your modules here and not use the modules as the homepage, right? Because otherwise it gets a little, it may get a little overwhelming. So I can say, you know what, I actually want to look at week 1 getting started in theater basics. So I click on this and it's going to take me to that. It should have taken me to it. I may just have weird links here. Let me just look real quick. No, it should have gone right to it. You know what? Let me just move this. You know, I'm going to leave it there. Let me go to my homepage here. I think my module link is just wrong. So I'm going to fix it. I'm going to come down here. Whoops. I'm going to click in here. I'm using the new rich content editor, by the way. I'm going to remove that link. And now I'm going to add a link. And it's a course link. And it's to modules. And it's to week 1 getting started. That's where I want that. All right. I should probably do getting started and then theater basics. You know what? Let me actually do that. Remove the link. Week 1 getting started. I'm going to link, course link, modules. That's going to be week 1 getting started. And this is going to be theater basics. Course links. This looks a little bit different because this is the new rich content editor. Your content selector will always be over on the right hand side and you'll see links, and then you can go to course navigation and you can select modules rather, and you can select whichever module it is. There we go. All right, so that's a little bit better. That'll work now. All right, so that's one of the things we can do is have these links on the homepage. And so if I click on getting started, it should just take me right to the getting started module. It puts it right at the top of my page. I can see that. I could link to this opening page. Be really careful about doing this, because when you do in mobile, like we want to be considerate of mobile students as well, mobile using students as well. When you do this, it takes you right to that page. If you have an overview page for the first item in each of your modules, that's great. And if you link to that page in browser Canvas, it works great. In mobile Canvas, it doesn't work as well. So what you want to do, if you really, really, really want to drop your students into the flow of the module, the best way to do that is actually to right-click on this Getting Started opening page and copy the link address. This is fine for this iteration of this class. You will have to update these links if you roll this course into a subsequent term. So I'm saying this with a lot of caveats. Best way to do it, just link to where the modules index. This is going to work okay for browser and better for mobile. This solution that I am showing you right now, it requires maintenance from term to term. But when I copy this link address, go into my homepage, and I edit this. So you saw what happened when I clicked on getting started before. It took me right to the modules index. What I'm going to do in this case, And I use Command K because I like Command K. It gets me my link interface really quickly. And I can put in what I want this to link to. Oops. Close. Yeah, no, that should work. Command K. V. Done. No. Bad new rich content editor. It's highlighted. All right. Command K. Yeah, okay, that works. Command V. All right. Cool. All right. Save. Now when I go into getting started, it's going to take me right into that introductory module page. It's in the flow of the module, and in mobile it will do the same thing, and I'll actually have modular navigation as well because it is a modular item. It is a module item. Like I said, this would require maintenance when you roll this course from one term to the next, so you'd have to update all your homepage links. So that's another strategy that you can link this with if you are publishing modules week by week. So that's kind of a cool strategy. Here's another one. And I know this video is going on quite a while. I apologize. Here's another cool thing that you can do. I am going to go to View All Pages. And in View All Pages, I have my overview pages. And so I'll have like week one over, let's see here, where are my introduction pages, right? So introduction to, let's see here. There's the, I want... You know what? It's going to be easier if I open up my modules page in another. I did a command click to open this up, right? So it's going to be easier. So say I've got my first week module page. When I hit weeks 2 and 3, I can actually change what my homepage is. And I'm looking for Introduction Greek Theater, right? So I want to go into see how this is flagged as the homepage right now, the front page. I can go into Introduction Greek Theater. I come over here to this item, I click the more options, and I say use as front page. You'll see that badge moves, right? And if I'm using a content page as a home page, now if I publish weekly, and then I put my home page, I change my home page so that it's this, right? Now it wouldn't normally look like this. If I were actually in the pages index, it looks a little bit different. I have just got a kind of a crummy thing set up. So this basically I have some things in the page design here that are causing the viewport not to flex appropriately. This is an old course for me. I wrote it 7 years ago. So I just need to fix some of the Flexbox stuff here. But that's why it looks weird on the front page. So I'd want to, but it's all the content's still there, right? That's good. But I can adjust some things here. All right. So that's another thing that you can do. So week by week, you can actually move this and say, all right, this is my weekly homepage. Like this is going to be weeks 2 and 3, the homepage for this, and it's going to have my overview, everything that students need to know, all that good stuff. Here are the graded assignments. Here are the outcomes for the module, why we're doing what we're doing, all that stuff. So that's kind of another cool strategy that you could use. It might disorient some students, so you're going to want to let them know that you're doing that. All right, one last thing that you could do. On your homepage, let's actually jump over to my homepage here. And I think this is actually a pretty straightforward thing to do, is just to do what I had done before. So we can move these homepages around, or we can, where are my pages? Pages. There they are. The other thing that we can do, view all pages. On our home pages, we can actually just put links to all the modules, which I showed you already. So that's another way. So you don't focus so much on having modules available for students, but you have the home page, and you can do different things with this. You can even, it doesn't have to be just a collection of links. It could be buttons, right? I've done, let me see here. I've got my intro to theater has slightly different homepage setup. So this is what I did here. I could just change my week 1 button. Like I could change my weekly button every week so that takes them right to the module for this week. Here are the help resources. Here are announcements, because I'm not showing them on the front page. So, and I've got this set up to be mobile friendly. This is not a table, by the way. This is divs. These are actual buttons that will work in mobile. It's kind of cool. This is a slightly different version of that course. Anyway, so that's what you can do in modules. And I know that is a lot of information. So let me just recap really quickly. Easiest thing to do, put a date lock on it and let your students know that it's date locked, but have everything published. They can't get into the stuff when it's date locked, but they can see that it's there. And I would always recommend, always, that your content is published even if you don't want your students to be able to get in and do anything with it. When they click on it, they'll get a message about why they can't get in. Sometimes you will get messages from students where they're saying, hey, I can't get into this, I can't access this. All right, what's it telling you? Well, it's saying that it's part of a locked module and has not been unlocked yet. Yep, that's correct. So just let your students know, right, what your strategy is, what your intention is, right? So lock date. Unpublish the module, but leave the content inside published. That makes sure that the students can see the plan and the whole layout of everything that's coming up, but they aren't going to get overwhelmed by seeing all of the scaffolding information, all of the readings, all of the sort of connective tissue of your course right up front. That's going to be appropriately chunked. I mean, when students see a textbook, they see a textbook, right? And they see it as like a single object. When they look at your module index, it's like looking at a table of contents in a textbook, which is frequently many, many pages, right? Well, they look at that and they go, we're never going to do all of this in a class. Well, good. Yeah, so that's why that doesn't feel overwhelming. Right? You shouldn't do all of everything that's in a textbook, usually, depending on the textbook. We as teachers tend to curate that stuff. When they look at your modules index, they know that they have to do all of it. And even though they can't see it, they can't get into the containers, they can't, even if they couldn't see actually what's in it, if they see that full list, that can still feel really overwhelming, even though each thing might just be a paragraph or two. They don't know that. So there's an unknown thing in there. So I really think the best strategy here in terms of visualizing the course and also access to content, mitigating student anxiety, have your content published, but unpublish the module itself. Right? So just click on the little check mark in the module title bar to unpublish it. I know that was a long trip to the well to get to that recommendation, but that's what I would recommend doing. You can pair that with things like changing the homepage or moving the module up and down in the index so that students see the thing that they're supposed to be working on right now. You can also just do a homepage with buttons that direct right to the module that you are working on that week. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's super long, but I appreciate your time. Y'all have a good day, and I hope this helps.